He does that on purpose. Hey, Josh Tovar, principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, ISD. Garland, USA, ready to rock and roll today when it should have been ACDC, but it's okay. We can always adapt to change because it's Thunderstruck. It's the playoffs. Some people are seeing the playoffs right there in baseball. Some people are preparing for high school playoffs, and we're ready to do the best that we can today because you know what? We're going to face a very important topic today that is our emerging bilinguals. Like I said, if I didn't say, Josh Tovar, principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, ISD, Garland, USA, ready to rock and roll with all. Look at all these educators. Look at, they're all over, all from East Coast to West Coast. They're here because they're bringing a set of tools to help out our hijos that are coming into our schools because you know what? We might not be prepared. So if Alaska and you're Hawaii or you're in Maine or you're in Florida or anywhere in the 48 middle, we need you. They're coming your way. They ain't stopping. And we need to know how to service them, help them, and love them along the same way. What do you think about that, Dean Packard?
Josh, you didn't slow down one bit and take a breath there, my friend. Great to see you. And yes, in the house tonight, we have some amazing educators from across the country, and we are looking forward to digging in a little bit and finding more about them, Josh. So great lead in once again. Ladies, welcome to the platform. Give everybody a quick wave so they all know who you are. Quick wave. There they all are right there. Double-handed, double-fisted. Let's go. We're going to go around the room. A little bit about yourself, where you teach, what your role is, and who you are. We're going to go Megan W. first. Go. Oh, there's two Megan W's. Megan Waugh. How about that? Bang, go.
Hi, Megan Waugh. I'm the director of the Department of English Language Development for Washoe County School District in Reno, Nevada. Prior to the role that I'm in now, I was a principal and a teacher.
Welcome to the table, Megan.
Thank
Megan Wade.
Hi, I am an assistant principal curriculum director at a high school in Georgia, and I taught social studies before this.
Outstanding. Welcome to the table. And I don't know how your Braves are doing, but we're going to find out because I'm going to watch your body language because I know you're watching.
0-0 right now.
Yeah, all right. You're in a good place right there. Marie, you're up.
Howdy, everybody, all the way from Texas. My name is Dr. Marie Moreno. I am currently the owner and founder of Newcomer Success, which is a consultant company supporting EBs across the country. Formerly, before I opened up my company, I was a principal, the founding principal of Las Americas Newcomer School in the Houston Independent School District, where I was there for 18 years working with students from 32 countries, serving 42 different languages. So, yay me!
Oh my, way to go. Welcome to the table. Andrea, welcome back.
Hey everybody, my name is Andrea Bittner. I am an English language learner teacher based out of Philadelphia, PA, and currently working with English language learners in grades 1 through 12 and mentoring some teachers, speaking around the country, and as an author. So excited to be here. Thanks for everyone for having me.
And Andrea was on last Sunday. If you didn't catch it, it's on the thread below on our Twitter and Facebook and YouTube channel. So take a look at that if you get a chance. Welcome back again, Andrea. We appreciate you. Margaret, welcome to the table.
Hi, everyone. My name is Margaret Rotacchio. I'm currently the Multilingual Programs Newcomer Facilitator for Garland ISD. And along with Mr. Josh Tovar, our main school is the Newcomer Center at Memorial Pathway Academy, which serves students that are newcomers in secondary from 6th grade to 12. It's been around since 2009, actually. So, and I've been the facilitator there since 2016. Prior to that, I had 17 years in the classroom. And currently, I'm actually working with my friend who started a nonprofit called Empower the Voice, which actually I want to mention Sofia Nunez. Dr. Salva, you know her. And she is wonderful and she's such an advocate for our immersion bilingual families. And we're focusing on helping families with college and career, language acquisition, and family leadership.
Boom,
25
right
years
there.
this year, yeah, in
Off the
education.
mic. Great stuff right there, Margaret. Welcome to the table. Carol, welcome back. Great to have you with us.
I'm so excited to be back. My name is Carol Salva, and I am just like my friend, Dr. Moreno. I'm from Houston, Texas. And currently, I am in Portland, Oregon. I am at the home of my friend, Dr. Katie Topple, who's also someone in the field. She's my co-author. We wrote a book called DIY PD for Teachers of Multilingual Learners. And then I also have written a book called Boosting Achievement, Reaching Students with Interrupted or Minimal Education. I work for Seidlitz Education, and I am the lead for our newcomer division. And it's an honor to be here with all of these folks and with you guys.
It's a pleasure to have you back. It's always great. All right, Josh, take it away.
So, team, what have you noticed in the past couple of years with supporting our EB students before the shutdown and now afterwards? There is a change. There has been a change. We're just talking about the shutdown. We'll get into other issues later on. But what have you observed with supporting EB before and after? Margaret.
I would say first and foremost, the number of newcomers, of course, has grown exponentially, right? Just to share, in Garland ISD, since I've started becoming the newcomer facilitator, and the newcomer program was, kind of like the program that I create and support. Since 2016, our average number of newcomers from elementary to secondary, and those are only first year, are about 500, right? 500 newcomers. And then, of course, during the pandemic, that was when Mr. Tovar and I were like, okay, are we going to close down the school? Because of course they weren't coming, right? So we had very low numbers. And then starting last year, it was 650 kids at the end of 2022. In January, it was 1,000. And then as of last week, it was 1,200, almost 1,300 kids. And if I will look at the newcomer toolkit right now, which says that it's going to be K to 12, first 3 years in the country, that's probably going to be about 10,000 just in our district alone. And so that's a big change in terms of the numbers. But at the same time, the biggest change also are the number of students with interrupted formal education. And that's the reason why it's so important to read the book of Dr. Carol Salva. It's like a Bible right now, boosting achievement, because it's just exponential, the number of kids with limited or informal, interrupted formal education. And I would even say that students without any education at all has been coming to the country. And at first we were getting them from Latin America, but we've also been getting them a lot from Afghanistan. And I know Mr. Tovar is with me in that, with students starting with just how to hold a pencil. We started with pencil grip with our middle schoolers and high schoolers. So it's a very big change. And although we have teachers that were ready for students that are newcomers and have interrupted education, but they weren't ready for this much. And so there's a lot of changes that need to happen in terms of our professional development and the way that we are also intaking our kids.
Thank you, Margaret. Carol.
I'm in agreement with Margaret that it is not that we don't know how to serve these kids. We have been doing this. This is not anything new. Students with students with minimal, actually the book is called Students with Interrupted or Minimal Education, because that's what we were experiencing, were students who had never had formal education. They were coming into middle school and high school. But that's not new. That's never, we've had that. We're in Texas. We've seen this new arrival students for a long time with limited education. But just like Margaret said, the sheer numbers are what is becoming such a challenge for people. And if you look at what the United Nations, they put a report out each year, the number of people displaced in the world because of persecution, because of something difficult. That number used to be around 40 million for decades. And then about 20 years ago, it started creeping up. 1991, it started creeping up. And last year, I was marveling that it was at 89 million, and that is twice what it used to be. Okay, this past year, it jumped 20 million in 1 year. The number of people in the world that are displaced because of war or persecution or something difficult. And 40% of those are children. So if you're working with people who think they're going to see less newcomers, like this is an anomaly, no. Especially with interrupted education or coming from hard places, we're going to see more.
Thank you, Carol. Doc Moreno.
So I was taking notes, of course. And you know what? Snap snaps to Margaret, snap snaps to Carol. I mean, absolutely right. As a matter of fact, we started seeing Scythe. Scythe came around in 2014. I remember that because there's an article written about Scythe back in 2014 when this whole new nuance of what is Scythe and who are these kids and why are they coming to us with less and less education. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We've been doing this for a long time. But some things that come to mind, Josh, that you talked about before and after, what I'm finding out and what I'm seeing when I was a principal at the newcomer school, and now that I'm helping people across the country, what I'm finding is the level of trauma, right? The very important piece of social emotional learning, not only for our students, but for our teachers, right? How we need to also support our teachers in making sure that they're taking care of themselves and whatnot. But trauma definitely is something that we're seeing that our students had endured, even more so now. Not that they weren't coming with trauma before, but I just kind of see that level is kind of ticked up, and they're more traumatized. There's more effects of that. And then the other thing also is just the teacher support. The fact that we have students that are coming with trauma, along with the fact that they have this interrupted schooling, that combined in itself is kind of something overwhelming that our teachers are just finding themselves kind of being engulfed of. How do we then make sure that we're supporting our kids effectively? And not only that, I mean, as a former principal myself, I can say we are held to these high standards that they expect miracles as far as, making sure that our students are learning quickly. I remember my boss came to me when I was still a principal, I remember, and he came to me and looked at my newcomer kids and said, they don't know English yet? Oh my God, it's already been 6 weeks, and why don't they know English by now? And it's not like, what? I'm sorry. Can you learn Arabic in 6 weeks? Because, I don't know how anybody can learn a language in a 6-week period. It doesn't work that way. And for some reason, we just have, we have people who believe that. And unfortunately, it takes time and it takes, the right strategies. And I think, amongst all of the people here, we have some really, really great ideas. People just need to kind of allow us to, and allow the teachers to do what they do best in working with our kids so that they can support them. But to answer your question, Josh, trauma, we got to address that and making sure our kids feel safe, because that affective filter is really high if you're not addressing the trauma and the things that they've endured. They've suffered a lot.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Andrea.
I think here on the East Coast, they're not accustomed to receiving a large amount of newcomers in pockets of time. And that's what's starting to happen. And so the schools, instead of being proactive, as they should be set up right now, are in a state of reactive. And to your point, Marie, they're not sure, what to do when these new students are arriving. And what I've seen is a shift in advocacy from the teacher end. So teachers are starting to say, please train me, please give me more information. I haven't been equipped to know what to do when these new students are arriving. What kind of content do we have in our curriculum that works with our English learners? And what kind of, technology resources are available? And hey, how do I communicate comfortably with parents? Because I haven't had to do these things before with more than a few students. And so, for example, in my district, we have 31 different languages. And so just allowing our teachers to get into a comfort zone of how to have those conversations and access those parents and get them to engage has been a point of conversation and real growth in this side of the country for at least the past year or two.
Wow. Yep. Very true. Up there in Georgia, Megan.
So I think we're in that boat where we weren't getting this a lot on a large scale for a long time. And then all of a sudden we are. And we have told our teachers, you're going to have these students in your classroom, whether you want to learn the strategies that are effective for teaching them or not. So we've been highly encouraging our content teachers to get ESOL certification, because a lot of them were kind of resistant. They think like, oh, if I get ESOL certification, I'm gonna be doing that all day. We're like, no, we don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough allotments for people to be doing that all day. We need our content teachers to be certified and understand how to meet these kids where they are. And so we have like both ends of the spectrum where we do have teachers who are advocating and saying, okay, give me all the strategies. Tell me what I can do. I'll take all the kids, because unfortunately, we have a exponentially growing population of newcomers, but not an exponentially growing number of allotments for teachers. So we do have teachers that are desperate for the strategies. And then we have others who are just very hesitant because of, if you look at the demographics where we are and how they've shifted, it's a tremendous change for someone who's been in this district for 20 years. It's a different type of student, but they're coming and they've been coming, and we've doubled in size in the past 3 years as far as our newcomer population. So we've got twice as many students. We don't have twice as many teachers. So teachers who are welcoming learning these strategies are hugely impactful in our content areas. And it's been really interesting. I was writing down a couple different things that y'all were saying, and I appreciate your perspective so much, because it's really just hitting us hard now, probably the last 2 years where I am. And it, like I said, we just tell you, you're going to have newcomers in your classroom. You can learn the strategies and help them be successful, or you can be frustrated, banging your head against the wall every day because you don't understand, how different it is. And this may be kind of a little off topic a little, but something I've been really driving is for these students who are coming to us, who are picking up the language really quickly, assessing them and giving them rigorous opportunities. Like for me, that's something that I think is really important, and just driving home the fact that just because they're new doesn't mean they're not capable. And getting our teachers on board with that too, and increasing those opportunities, because we have so many of these kids, like when you meet them and talk to them, they have what it takes. They may not have the language yet, but you can tell they've got what it takes. And so that's something that I've really been focusing on, as we've seen more and more of these students come.
So true. Thank you. What about over there in Nevada? Talk to us.
I could ditto every single one of these amazing people. And it's actually kind of validating because, we're just floating over here in Nevada, and to hear that we're facing the same types of barriers that everybody is across the country is, it's a little, like I said, I guess validating, but, we have actually, our newcomer population has increased 35%. So just since, so we enrolled a total of 198 new to country students last school year. We have enrolled 319 since August 14th this school year. So we're bursting. And again, like what all of you were saying, it's how do we provide them with that equitable and adequate instruction, and how do we provide our staff with the capacity and the tools that they need to welcome all of these new students and still maintain those demands and the rigor that they're expected to maintain. And we have such staffing shortages, et cetera. And along with the trauma, and we are now, Washoe County, we have 89 different languages now that we have recorded in Washoe County, which is huge. And so how do we communicate with all these different languages, and very exotic, and our Marshallese population is really growing. And so we're trying to work with how do we communicate with the families, because the other issue that we are facing, along with all of the instructional and language gaps that we're seeing, is absenteeism. Are the chronic absenteeism that is happening. And so it's like, how do we get them to school, first of all, to provide them with this important, instruction, but also how do we communicate with some of our families who do have, languages that we aren't equipped to communicate with very well, to to try and educate them about the culture of the U.S. educational system and the importance of coming to school. And so those are some of the challenges, I think, outside of even just the instructional realm that we are facing here.
Ladies, you've dropped some great nuggets here. There's no doubt about it. And it's all very similar in conversation when we're listening to you from a foundational level. But if thinking of this for a second, in the eyes of the educators out there, what issues do you see the most educators are facing today with EB students across the country with all the immigration that's going on? What are the major issues? Just kind of focus on a couple of them from your lens that you see. Let's start off and let's go backwards this time. Megan, we're going to continue with you. You just left, so go backwards.
I think communication. So, they're trying to teach content to a child that they can't communicate with on a social level, let alone an academic level. So I think that our teachers are really struggling with that. And then therein, I think, is leading to a disproportionality of students being referred to special education. So having to work then with teachers to educate them on the challenges of language acquisition, along with content learning, and to really get them to understand that this is not a learning disability. Language is not a learning disability, and language isn't an intervention either. Language is something that needs to be embedded in Tier 1 instruction. And then we need to give teachers tools to be able to communicate with our students that speak absolutely no English whatsoever. So those are some of the challenges that we're seeing, but we're really trying to build that capacity with our teachers.
Love that. Carol, build upon that, please.
Well, I love what she said. It's not a disability. This is not an issue where I think that's a big challenge. When we look at a student that we can't communicate with, teachers are overwhelmed. And I'm speaking from experience. I was put back in the classroom even after I had studied this and had been supporting teachers. When you are in the classroom day to day, managing the entire class, you don't have a lot of time to sit there and reflect and think about the fact that just because they don't understand me right now today, that's going to be different in 2 weeks, in a month, in 2 months. Kindness and patience goes so far. And then little things that we do, but consistently, like gestures, pointing, that lower the stress of the student so they can catch more language. That's one of the things that people who support teachers can help them understand, that visuals, gestures, kindness, and patience are the top things. They don't require extra time. They don't require extra planning time, and they are what the newcomers ask for most. And so I think it's that what somebody said earlier, our teachers' affective needs, teachers' stress, it's hard to learn or process when you're in a place of high stress. So helping just with the empathy piece even, and again, the kindness and the patience, not everybody, but many of your teachers who are stressed out about these students, if you ask them if they can remember a newcomer that they worked with last year or knew of last year, and ask them, so do they understand more now? Well, yeah. Okay, well, so we have amnesia, right? We think, how is this kid ever going to make it? Not realizing that every single day they understand more. Mm-hmm. This is not a disability, just like she said. And they're not the only child sitting in that classroom who's off level for content. So it's helping teachers understand what is part of Tier 1 instruction that would boost the achievement of the entire class. And then we help this child with kindness, patience, and not forgetting these Tier 1 instruction things.
Good stuff right there. Thank you, Carol. Marie, you're up. I feel badly for the ones who are going to be after this because you guys are laying everything out there. Go, go, go.
I know. I'm like checking all these things off because Carol said half the things and Megan said half the things. I'm like,
the one issue that you're seeing.
Nothing.
Make it one. Leave some open.
I learned it all from Marie now.
I'm just going to piggyback on what Carol said. I mean, to be honest with you, the number one complaint or the one major issue, as you put it, Dean, that I'm seeing right now is just teacher stress. I mean, I can't tell you how many people are saying, this is it. I'm done. I'm leaving at the end of this year, because they just don't feel supported, and they just feel like this is just getting harder and harder. And I tell them it's all in how we work with our most challenging kids, right? If we can reach those kids, then our life is going to be great. Now it's getting to that principal. It's getting to the person who actually makes those decisions, because I know as a principal myself, we as teachers, we look to our leaders. We look to the people who make those decisions. We look to the people who can provide those resources, to bring in people like, who can help us, give us the tools, the support, because they're, as someone said earlier, they want the support, they want the help. And we gotta make sure that our principals are listening to our teachers, because guess what? At the end of the day, it's our teachers that make the difference. It's our teachers that really is the magic. And I would stress that a million times, is the teachers really are there to support the kids, and to make those marks, those accountabilities. But at the end of the day, we have to, our major issue is really teacher stress, empathy, supporting our teachers, and making sure that they get what they need and support that they need, so that they can. So Josh, you're hearing me, right? Because you're a sitting principal, buddy. I need you to be making sure that your teachers are supported. Okay.
You hear that, Josh? I think that's just what you said. I love it. Somebody's got to do that for you. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate that. Andrea.
Something else I'm really hearing out in the field is that schools are not dedicating the time to allowing collaboration between their EL teachers and content teachers. And I think that that's a huge missing piece in being intentional in planning time for those teachers to meet. And so setting aside time to gather information, time to provide information, time to provide models of accommodations, times for check-ins during the year to see how it's going, how can we tweak it, what can we fade back, what do we need to do next, and just not just an email, not just an email of here's a quick access level for this student, and I'll see you in the next few weeks as I start to service them, but let's have the time to collaborate together. Another thing I think that I'm really seeing is that I talk about like microscope thinking versus binocular thinking. And sometimes I think it's really hard for teachers to see that long-term vision for our EBs and our students that are learning English. And they tend to be in that microscope thinking of survival day to day, but realizing, like many of you said, that learning English takes time. And so you have to be able to see that long-term vision for that student when they can't see it themselves. And I think that's a really important point as well. And building that muscle, it takes time to build a strong muscle. So giving teachers the support they need to collaborate with their EL teacher in a frequent basis will allow everybody to grow a muscle that will be strong.
I'm going to steal the microscope versus binocular
Sure.
metaphor. I absolutely love that. It was spot on. Megan.
So I think I agree with everything you guys are saying about stress of teachers and collaboration time. We were very intentional about our planning this year of our master schedule. And we only have 5 ESOL teachers, but every single one of them, whatever content they push into, they have the same lunch and planning as those teachers, because it's critical that they have that time and they don't feel lost, especially if they're not a content teacher. So that has been a huge blessing for them. They are very thankful for that time. What I'm seeing with the students is acclimating them to the norms and processes that we have. So like some of them, where I'm from, if I didn't like that class, I just took an extra lunch, things like that. So we're having like problematic skipping, just like, why is this person skipping this class every day, no other classes? Oh, well, we figured out they have no friends in there. They don't know anyone. They don't speak the language. And the teacher didn't really welcome them with open arms. So they just were like, well, I wasn't really comfortable in there. So the cafeteria is fun. Let's go hang out in there. So getting to the bottom of that, about they're not skipping class to be, deviant. They just where they were from, they could do that. Like, oh, I can sit in the cafeteria for 3 hours if I wanted to. So, and not coming down, like not dropping the hammer on a kid who legitimately doesn't know, and just explaining, walking them through our processes, our norms, our protocols. You know, we've got 2,000 kids. You got to be where it says on your schedule, and let's talk about that teacher and where do we think that's the best fit. I mean, I'm not opposed to a schedule change if needed, you know, to make sure that the kid is set up for success.
I love that, Megan. Great job. Margaret.
So for me, I don't know if you guys know Alejandra Vasquez Bauer. She actually established the National Newcomer Network, and she did a study with Manuel Vasquez, wherein she said that 50% of the state educational agencies actually don't have a process for intake in newcomers. And I want to share that, and Dr. Salva knows this. I'm very passionate about it. I feel like every school should have a newcomer ambassador. So an ambassador, as an immigrant to this country, I first tried to find an ambassador, right? Do I have an ambassador in this country? Do I have somebody that I can turn to if something happened to me? Same with our kids. And that ambassador, in Garland, it's in elementary, it's the paraprofessionals, and in secondary, it's our LPAC teachers. But it's really every school already have somebody, but there's power in the name, right? And there's power in naming them, and also giving them an actual system of process. Like, what do you do? First and foremost, we have to get to know our kids. That's piggybacking on those kindness, respect, understanding. How can we build that empathy without knowing where are they coming from, right? What are the challenges that they bring, but also what are the assets that they have? And then that's where we can build a newcomer support plan for them. The second thing that I will say is that a lot of the time we don't try to capitalize on the strength of equal partnership with parents. I'm gonna quote my friend Sofia Nunez on this. She mentioned about how immigrant parents come as cultural survivors, but it doesn't mean that they don't care about their kids. They want to learn about the culture so that they can advocate for their kids. I have a special needs son, and I know for a fact that even though our parents can speak English sometimes as well, because they're newcomers as well, they want to be there and they want to ask those questions, but we have to give them the tools, right? So we have to give them in translation, interpretation system, get those partnerships. So one of the things that we do in Garland, we interview the students. Through the interview, we also connect with our translation interpretation department and make sure that we have that voice. We can hear from the students, we can hear from the parents, so that we know when to begin. Where do we even start in helping those students? And in the Newcomer Center, I'm just gonna boast a little bit about Mr. Tovar and the systems that he has in that school. My gosh, the first thing that we do is have that orientation day, right? We don't assume that every student know how to turn on that computer, because we have so many kids. Part of the intake is asking, have you ever seen a computer before, right? And that's coming from the book of Dr. Salva and Dr. Izquierdo, John Seidlitz. So I'm just quoting all of these people, right? But last thing I want to share is that all of you kind of mentioned about teacher stress. We have to think about, so sheltered instruction is so big, right? It gathers and it compasses everything. But right now, the state of Texas is pushing CBLI. And I think it's a very powerful name again, because it's content-based language instruction. It's really giving the strength for every teacher and the responsibility as well. Every teacher should be a content-based language instructor teacher, right? Science, math, social studies. You have to give comprehensible input, right? You have to be able to level up the language. So communicated, sequence, and scaffolded. We have to have meaningful interactions. Okay, I'm getting this from Laura Iltega. Because the thing is, we have to know that our kids start from somewhere, but they have. I want to share my shirt from Isabel Becerra, my friend. It's Beyond All Limits. This is from our EB conference. And so if you guys want to start something like that, Garland has an emergent bilingual conference every year. This was started by our facilitator, Isabel Becerra. And it's really just gathering all of those experts, Dr. Esquelda, Dr. Salva, Dr. Heath. So many of these people we gathered so that we'll be able to equip our teachers with the knowledge and the strategies, and then following up. Very important to follow up. As much as we want to show kindness to our kids, the same with our teachers. Kindness, respect, understanding, and empathy. That's all.
Outstanding. Josh?
You're missing Megan. Did Megan go
Well,
already?
everybody went. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought I was missing one of the Megans.
Nope.
Oh, she dropped out, right? She left us. All right, gotcha. So right now, what is, we have a lot of exodus also at central office. So there's people taking new positions at central office that provide the support for the campus level. So what do you see as an obstacle in your journey, in your sphere of influence, that is not reaching? What is their obstacle to reach the classroom teacher? What do you think is going on? Because we hear that, you've all said it, that our team members want the learning, right? They want the PD, but more often than not, it comes from my chair, obviously, comes from Dean's chair, but there's also a vision by the director of EB, whatever your version is in your state. So what do you feel is an obstacle from central office right now in delivering that with this huge tidal wave of immigrants that are coming in? Andrea.
The first thing I thought of when you started to talk about this subject was just a general lack of understanding of what the English language learner field is about and what the requirements are from each state, right? For students to enter the program, exit the program, etc. And really just a lack of commitment in not only training their teachers, but training what I call the frontline workers who work with the parents most of the time, which are your office teams, your support teachers, your social workers, your school psychs, all of the people that are part of the school community who aren't providing direct instruction, but will interact with these students and families throughout the school day. So I think that one of the challenges at the top level is a lack of understanding as to what the students and families need in order to be successful.
Megan?
I would completely agree, especially I'm sorry, I'm taking notes over here as well. I think for me, it is education at all levels, not just getting teachers the support they need, but a lot of administrators where I'm from have been in this county for a long time where we weren't experiencing this for a long time. And so even at the assistant principal, and district level, people don't understand what is needed. And whoever was talking about every system should have a process, we're getting there. We have a welcome center now that will at least do an orientation. They're working on hiring people to translate any transcripts that do come in, because we want to make sure we're giving these kids the credit they have, and not just starting them where we think they should be based on their age. So we're working on it, but I just feel like there's roadblocks at every level because people just don't understand. And I think it really does depend on where you are and how diverse your faculty is. So if you don't have leaders such as some of you that have been through this, it's a lot, I think, larger of an obstacle to get everyone to understand what is needed and what it takes, and see the value in some of the things that may cost a little bit more money or may take a little bit more time. But there's value in doing it the right way for these students.
Carol?
I am just in agreement with what's been said so far. It is a difficult thing to roll out when change is always maybe going to be difficult for people to wrap their head around. And so what I'm seeing really effective is when we look at, again, what does this child need? What are some of the most important things that they need to keep their head in the game, to keep them wanting to come? And those things actually all kids need. And so when you can help teachers see not everything, we're not doing a huge overhaul of your pedagogy. What are a few things that we can focus on this school year that would support all students and really make a difference for a newcomer? So I'll give you an example. I work for Seidlitz Education, and a lot of people in Texas and beyond now know our 7 steps. to a language-rich interactive classroom. And step one is something that teachers don't usually push back. It's teach kids what to say when they don't know what to say, right? Put up a poster, but it's not a magic poster. We teach kids what to say instead of I don't know. And it doesn't matter what language that's in, it's a skill. So when you teach that to a brand new newcomer and help them understand that they're going to be able to walk around the building and know what to say if they get asked a question, it's relevant, it lowers their stress, it gives them the message that their voice is important. But what child doesn't need that skill? And so I'll give you another example real quick. If people ask me for places they should go visit, I talk about Margaret's program, the Ambassador Program, because a minute ago we were talking about trauma, and there's research that a sense of belonging offsets the negative effects of post-traumatic stress. A sense of belonging. That's Claudius research. And so what she's talking about there, it sounds, oh, an ambassador program. No, it's not a little thing. It's a huge thing. Because again, if we can have them feeling like they belong there, imagine the difference, and for the teachers. So I think it's not a big change it's focusing on some basic things. And again, kindness, patience, and realizing they're not the only students that are needing to fill some gaps. And we get much further when we do it this way.
Love it. Got it?
I hope that's helpful.
Yes. I saw that pause. You're going to go?
Because I want to say
Moreno.
more, but I know there's more. I want to hear more from my colleagues here too.
Doc Moreno. Got you, Carol.
All right. Well, before I say go to that, I just want to snap to Megan really quick, because you were talking about the skipping and how, kids were skipping class, and how, you didn't want to, like, quote unquote punish them for going to something that they didn't want to go to, because that's what they were used to not doing in their own country. So I was like, snap, because I'm all about trauma sensitive, and how do we make it adaptable, and how do we teach kids what to do when they feel like they are being underserved or injustice or something. Mm-hmm. And you did just that. So, oh my God, I was just like, yay. So I just wanted to kind of give you kudos to that, because I wrote that down. So anyways, okay, let's go back to the topic here. So you were talking about what challenges, right? What's causing this? So one of the things that I found in just working with being outside of a school now, right? So I've been out of being a principal for a year, and so one of the things that I'm finding is administrators, just like who said it? Andrea said, people just don't know what's coming at them. They don't know what newcomers are. I mean, I developed a training session just because I just started getting a number of folks just calling me saying, hey, we need help. And I'm like, what kind of help do you need? And they're like, we don't know. Like, we don't even know what to ask for. And it's like, okay. So I started processing and just started probing and asking questions. So I came up with a training, right? So that I'm not telling them, they're telling me, but I did it in a way that they are basically coming up with solutions themselves with me supporting them, because every school, every district, every state is very different, right? We just heard right now that some states are experiencing this for the first time. Others have seen this, and it's just the sheer number is overwhelming, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm just thinking about how, I take them through, what are your programs? And so I have them, they're listing their programs. We have X and Y and Z and A and B and C. And then I tell them, let's look at it from a newcomer lens now. Which one of these programs here are really supporting your EBs, right? And then they look at them and I'm like, okay, where's your listening, speaking, reading, writing? Where are you supporting those kinds of things to help? In Texas, our TELPAS, for example, right? In other states, it may be your WIDA, it may be, whatever. And so I take them through that. What about your systems? What about your routine? So I have them list out what they do, and then I have them look at it from an EB lens. A great example, something really, really simple, like Carol was talking about, was one of their routines. They said is we say the pledge every day. And it's like, yay, we say the pledge every day, and we do. I'm sure in Texas we even pledge the Texas flag. Yay, heaven forbid we don't do that. Which is really weird for other states, but that's another topic. But one thing that I said is, our EBs, one, they don't know our U.S. flag pledge, right? And two, they don't know what a Texas pledge is. So one of the things that I know I did at my newcomer is we had the pledge written out in the class so that they can learn how to read it. Right? So that when they're pledging to their flag or pledging to the flag, because they don't know it, we're at least teaching them to help them say the pledge because we have it written out for them. It's a routine for the kids, but it's an easy routine, an easy tweak, a little fix that we're making it adaptable or supportive for our EB students, right? So that's just an example that I wanted to kind of throw out there as far as how do you take a school and going through program, system, routines, curriculum, accountability, funding, how do we do things in the cafeteria? It's just little things like that you take them through this whole process to help them. And then if there's things that that they don't understand, then we bring the support around the curriculum, around the systems, around the routines, around that trauma sensitive, SEL, those kinds of things. And I'll pause because I can go on and on too.
Awesome. Did we hit them all there?
No, Margaret.
Margaret's left. I thought so.
I think one of you mentioned about district level and teacher level administrators. I remember at the beginning of the school year when we were giving training for compliance, one of our biggest asks for the principals in elementary was, please do not take your students back a grade just because they're newcomers. It's still happening even in a district as advanced as Garland, right? We have to put them in age appropriate grade. In the Dear Colleague letter of the Department of Education and Department of Justice, page 18, it says, put them in age appropriate grade because you are actually taking out a big chunk of their time for them to be able to get to that high school diploma. Mm-hmm. And we want them to have that high school diploma, right? And so it starts from there. And I think the biggest thing for that part, at least for central administrators, for school administrators, whatever we want our teachers to do as strategies, we have to know it ourselves. Mm-hmm. You have to watch, sorry, Mr. Tovar, for saying this, but you have to watch how Mr. Tovar actually did it in the classrooms in Memorial. But not everyone is an instructional leader. And I think that as administrators, and a lot of them, they have so much work to do. They have to do 504, you have to do special ed, and there's so much responsibility in terms of management. But we forget that the very first thing that you are is an instructional leader. If I want my teachers to learn about the 7 steps, which is like our biggest thing in Garland, sheltered instruction, silenced education, right? But I have to know it myself as an administrator, because how do I know what I'm going to find in the classroom, right? And then the second biggest thing that I will say is that, and I feel like this is something that we've been trying to hope for in years, and it might not just be a Garland thing, but also a big Texas thing or maybe a national thing. Our curriculum should already have all of those scaffolding included. Because the thing is, we have all of these strategies that we want our teachers to do, right? But if I'm a new teacher and that's not in my curriculum, and I'm still learning the curriculum myself, how do I add those strategies that I just learned for one day of PD? Right? I need to have consistent coaching to be able to do that. But if it's already embedded in my curriculum, and that's a big ask for the state, for the nation, because it has to be there for our newcomers and for all level of kids. Because if we look at the research, all the things that we do for in terms of sheltered instruction, CBLI, for our newcomers and for our emergent bilinguals, if we do that for all our kids, it's not just a best practice, it's a necessary practice for everybody. It will help all your special ed, your 504, your low SES kids. So why not embed it? Why not get a curriculum that actually has it already? And I may step on toes on that. So I'm just going to stop right there because I get too passionate as well. But I feel like those are at least two big nuggets that I want to point out.
That makes a lot of sense.
And you know what, Dean, I just want to add this out there, part of the conversation going on right now in regards to people that are not in the trenches, don't understand. And right now, the common thing that I'm observing are having, hey, Dean, what are you going to do with a 19-year-old from Vietnam with 9 credits who does not, or from Honduras with 3 credits, who still needs to pass all your state exams, still has all the requirements with credits. They're 19. And by law, I don't know if the law is the same in Massachusetts, but they got to get out by 21. I don't know if Georgia's the same thing, but you got to do credit, state exams, and CCMR, College and Career Ready certification with that. And the kid is 19. And when I say that to central office, they're like, what are we doing? Because we're taking kids at 19. I had a kid that we took in at 20, and turned 21 on Saturday. And they were there with us from Somalia for the whole rest of the year. So those are the things that we're not seeing 3 steps ahead. The good thing about our home is that we could blend kids into the other program that we have, which is our non-traditional, which is the kids that have adversity at the regular schools come to us to graduate. So it's easy for me to blend them and do it at their own pace with the support procedures in the classroom. But I don't think Georgia has that. I don't know if Massachusetts has that, because you guys are barely getting into what we were used to in the 80s. And so this is one of those things that it's really affecting at central office if you're not getting dirty, deep in the trenches with the kids coming in. And I think, as you said, Margaret, when you bring in kids to your district, where are you putting them? How are you placing them? And what is the end with them? Following adherence state law, making sure you meet all the requirements, but how is that teacher that's been teaching English 1 for the last 20 years going to deal with that 18-year-old Hondureño with 0 credits because he wasn't able to pay for his report card and get his transcripts over? How are you guys dealing with that? You see, that's one of the things that, like Dr. Moreno said, that's nothing new. That's not a thing new to us. We've been doing it for years in Texas, but now you guys are tasting that, and you're going to taste it. And you know what? It's very hard to have that taste because it drives you maddening. So to me, that's one of those things. What are we doing with these overage kids, adults, our peers at 18 and 19, and still meeting state requirements? So I just wanted to make sure I add that, because that's part of those things that policies and procedures are created by the school board and come down to all of us adhering to state policies. But you know what? It's hitting all of us, every single last one. And you know what? I'll just throw it up before I throw it over there to Dean. Ladies, would you mind continuing this chat in January? Because we still had 3 questions pending. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, just to keep it under an hour. Sure.
Okay, Dean, last question.
Now, before I do the last question, first of all, I love your advocacy for the students that are probably the most important students coming into public schools. I've always said, being a public school principal, every student that comes through the door deserves equity and access to learning at the highest level that they possibly can. And if we look at it through that lens and we put our head on our pillows each night knowing that we've done our very best to ensure they have that opportunity, then we win. We just win.
Amen.
We do that.
Amen.
Josh, so the last question that I have, I'm going to ask for one strategy. Okay, this is very important. One strategy or website that you can give educators across the U.S. to help EB students. And let's start off with Carol.
Well, I would point folks to the Newcomer Toolkit that the Department of Education has out. I mean, I'd love to give them my website, but I think
Please do.
Mine is salvac.edublogs.org, and I have a podcast with 117 episodes on supporting newcomer students at grade level. But I'm learning from the folks in this in this podcast. I learn a lot from these folks. I would follow these guys. But like I said, the Newcomer Toolkit that's put out by the Department of Education is an excellent resource, and I link to it all the time.
Awesome. Great stuff, Margaret.
Thank you.
Well, aside from the book of Dr. Salva and Dr. Izquierdo, Pathways to Greatness, I do want to share that, and the newcomer toolkit as well. I do want to share that, I've shared the intake interviews, two interviews in Dr. Salva's blog. And right now, Region 10 is actually through Laura Ortega, they're doing CBLI and newcomers. And they're sharing the intake interviews as well that I've created. And so, I mean, that's for me, it's just if I can get to help another newcomer in another place. I've had emails from New York, from South Carolina, from California as well, and they're using the intake process. So go ahead and use it, as long as we can get to know the kids and get to know their background. And then please create that newcomer support plan. I want to share real quick that although Mr. Tovar, I always call him Dr. Tovar, Mr.
Okay.
Tovar had shared that kind of challenge. Last August 14, our student Byron, he was 17 when we got him, 8 years of gap, didn't know how to read and write. He graduated August 14 with us. So yeah, he passed 3 tests. He couldn't pass English 1 and 2, but he passed 3 tests and made it all the way to graduation. So it can happen. It can happen, guys. It can happen for your students.
Love the passion right there. Andrea.
There's a couple things I was thinking about. The first one is don't be afraid of looking at social media. There are amazing professional groups out there like advocating for ELs and K-12 EL teachers. And, you name it within LinkedIn and Facebook. If you type in content area teacher searching for strategies on working with EBs, things like that, there are a ton of great teachers across the nation and professionals like ourselves who are posting resources daily and watching to see what challenges are out there and coming up with solutions. So I think that would be a great resource. There's a great app called Say Hi that is good for verbal conversation. It's good for imagery of taking pictures of documents on the fly if you're a content teacher who needs to have a conversation with a student. So that would be one I would suggest you look at as well. And just to really remember, I always say it's time to flip the script. When you're meeting someone who's learning English for the first time, instead of looking at that student and say, I want English right now, flip that script to look at that student and say, you're learning English. Wow. And, having that mentality of I'm going to take that script and flip it to find the resources I need for you is what we need from teachers.
Boom, right there. Megan, go.
So something that we have a teacher in our building who's been a huge advocate for AI this year. And AI can help any teacher, any content area with so many things, not just ELs, but the low-level learners in general, with scaffolding and translating and generating content that's at their level that meets them where they are. That we have had a couple really embrace this and harness it for good. I think when last year we were all running scared, thinking everyone was going to cheat, their way out of everything. So AI, ChatGPT, there's a couple educational ones out there that are really, really beneficial for our English learners.
Love it right there. AI is a big platform, just starting to come into the place. So good stuff. Marie.
All righty. Well, those are some awesome things. I'm taking notes, and again, I'm checking things off. I was like, yep, can't say that one. So one thing that I really think is important for our adults to support our EBs as far as the strategy is concerned is relationship building. I can't tell you how important it is for our students to feel welcome in a school. They are new. They don't know where to go. I went to a school one day, and I was in a room full of students, and I asked the question. I just said, so how long have you been here? I've been here a week. I said, okay, so who do you know at the school? I know no one. And they spoke Spanish. Here I am talking Spanish to the student. They were from Cuba. And I was just asking all these simple, basic questions, and they didn't know how to answer. And so, or they didn't know. And so it goes back to that ambassador, right? That ambassador person or that person that they can go to. So having some kind of system, having the counselor, having the homeroom teacher, having someone identify who our EB students are, and then making sure, it's really good for all kids, to be honest with you. I think every kid should have an adult in the building that they can always go to say, you know what, I need help. I don't know how, or what about this? Or someone that they feel safe to, you know, share their guts out, you know, let them know, look, I'm really scared about this, or I don't know about that, or this boy is bothering me, or whatever, you know, because it's not okay to feel that way, because that's where your attendance comes in. That's where they don't want to succeed. That's where they don't, there's so many things that go along with that. So I think it stems from, or it starts off with making sure our kids feel safe, know they're safe. You know, looking at Bloom's again, or not Bloom's, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, it's that whole safety at the very bottom. And if we don't get that right with our kids that are coming in, it doesn't matter what we do tomorrow. You know, and so I kind of feel like, you know, we got to get that piece right. So having something in place to support our kids day one.
Josh Tovar, I mean, I'm leaving here with a lot of great things on my mind.
That is an awesome job. And ladies, like I said, we'll get together again early January to finish off our last 3 questions that we have out there, because this situation is here to stay. Thank you very much. You know what, Dean? It's playoff time. I don't know who's winning. I don't know if the Phillies are. I don't know if the Bravos are. But you know what? It's football season. So we scored a touchdown today. We scored a touchdown here with all our EV experts. But it's not done. Hey, Dean Packard, it is not done this Sunday. The flagship show, 7 p.m. Eastern. We have another team member within this realm. Natalie Heckman will be joining us this Sunday for Unlock the Middles, the flagship show. You can see she has a lot of fans here because it's the same idea. This is a situation that is not getting easier. Will get more complex as more individuals come to our beautiful nation to find and make that American dream. Let's go, Dean Packard.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for your professionalism, your advocacy for kids, and more importantly, your passion that drives you each and every day to make a difference and be that difference maker. So that is absolutely amazing. We look forward to the next round. Can't wait for that. On behalf of everybody on the crew here tonight, we want to say thank you so much. And remember that every child deserves that champion each and every day. Be well, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. More importantly, make kids' days good.